shop as well, but I was calling one insurance company and then had to call another one, and then so you can just do a bunch at once, which is pretty awesome. And you also do you do car insurance too, and what else? What other insurance?
We do. So we do auto insurance, and we do any type of small business insurance. If you're a business owner, we do a lot of commercial insurance. And then another big focus of ours is life insurance. So what we always do when we take that initial phone call, we try to offer as many different insurance products as we can to our customers, because it makes sense to have everything bundled with the same insurance company. And what I mean by that is you get a significant multi-policy discount by having your auto and your home insurance with the same company. So what we advise our clients to do, if they call us for a home insurance quote, we're always going to offer to quote their auto insurance at the same time. And the way that we pitch that is, look, even if we can just match what you're paying right now on your car insurance, you're going to save an extra 20 to 25% on your homeowner's insurance rate with us just by having both policies together with the same company. So it makes financial sense to do it. And oh, by the way, if we tack on a life insurance policy on that as well, you get an additional multi-policy discount. So it really makes sense, and it gives us the opportunity to be able to review what our customers' current insurance is. And a lot of times we uncover significant gaps in coverage, like going back to like having the state minimum liability limits on auto insurance. I mean, you might have a doctor that makes $500,000 a year, but he's only insured up to $20,000 worth of property damage that he would cause in an auto accident. And, so just think about the consequences of that and getting sued and all of that. So, but yeah, just to answer your question, we offer auto, home, commercial, and life.
And, what are some of the things that people should take into consideration, when they start looking, like, is there a certain price point? Is there a minimal amount of coverage? I mean, what do you suggest for someone? I mean, of course you want to get all their business, but is there a certain limit is there a certain plan for homeowners insurance, or is there the best plan, the medium plan?
So it's a great question. And a lot of it is going to be on a case by case basis. As far as liability limits are concerned on auto insurance, we typically recommend no less than having $100,000 in bodily injury protection per person, with a $300,000 policy limit, and then $100,000 in property damage coverage. So right off the bat, you're getting 4 to 5 times what the state of Virginia requires you to have on your auto insurance. And the difference in the price between a state minimum and those limits that I just mentioned is very, very minimal. I mean, we're talking maybe a couple dollars a month to have so much better liability protection. And then when it comes to your homeowner's insurance, a lot of that's going to be based on the house that you're buying, the purchase price, all the details of the house, from the square footage to the year built to the construction to the number of bedrooms and bathrooms to the actual location of the house and the distance from the house to the nearest fire hydrant and fire department. And so all of these factors go into play when determining a rate. And us as insurance agents, we have a pretty sweet software program that we use that helps us determine what the true rebuild cost of a house is if, God forbid, there was a total loss and the house burnt down to the ground. And what's important to note on that is the rebuild cost of the house is always going to be different. Well, I say always. I would say almost always going to be different than what the purchase price of the house is. And because those are two different numbers. The sales price, that figures in, the value of the land, for example. It figures in the market. It figures in inflation, all of these different things. When from a home insurance perspective, we're concerned with truly being able to rebuild that house exactly the way it was from start to finish, and then also covering and providing for all the personal content inside as well. So that's another thing we kind of educate our clients and take them through that process and make sure they have the right amount of coverage on their home.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting when I talked to Ken of KC Solutions that, and I know I might sound stupid, but once you move to a different area of town, like things change when it comes to the insurance. The zip code. And one thing I ran into recently is floodplains. I'm sure you run into that, and the price goes up significantly, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I would definitely, if you've got any realtors out there who might be listening, if you've got a house listed in a floodplain, definitely contact us to get an estimate on what the flood insurance can cost, because that could be a significant cost to your buyer that they need to plan on and figure into their overall expenses, especially if the property's going to require flood insurance.
Yeah,
and you're exactly right. I mean, going back to the home insurance, I mean, the prices vary by zip code. So it used to be, maybe county by county, but now, a lot of these companies have gotten so smart where they can actually price out different home insurance policies with a base rate per zip code. And a lot of times that's based on, past claims history and how much, how many dollars have been paid out by an insurance company in that particular zip code over the past year in claims. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah, there definitely are. And how did you tell us a little bit about you? I mean, how did you get started doing this?
Well, I came out right out of college in 2005 from JMU, and actually moved back in with my parents because I had a couple of job offers up in the D.C. area, but at the time, just trying to make ends meet and living paycheck to paycheck with having 4 or 5 roommates didn't sound too appealing for me. So I moved back home to run it, moved back in with my parents, found a job with Liberty Mutual here in town, working as a sales rep, just doing auto, home, and life insurance. And at the time, that's all I sold to is Liberty Mutual was the only company that I represented. And, the summer of 2012, I just took the leap of faith and took a jump to start my own agency. And partially the reason I did that was to be able to provide my clients with options moving forward, to be able to shop rates and shop coverages and things like that. Because in the past, if my rate was too high or my coverage wasn't competitive enough, I just had to turn down the business. And there was nothing I can do for the customer. I'd have to refer out a lot of business to my colleagues. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just start my own agency, be a broker, and not have to deal with it. Literally have an insurance product for any type of client that I come across, no matter how bad or how good their driving records are or their claims activity. And I started out of my basement. I started summer of 2012. I worked out of my basement for the first 2 years until I got to the point where, I needed an office and I needed to start hiring employees. And that's kind of where I'm at today. So.
Yeah, I love that story that you were working out of your basement and built this thing up. That's a big deal. And I can relate to living with my parents and being paycheck to paycheck. I remember having to ask my mom for gas money, and I remember also too living alone, and I was counting the cans of chunky soup I had in my in my kitchen. I was like, okay, I've got enough to last me this week. I can eat this.
Right. We've all been there.
Yeah. So
I love hearing those stories. I mean, they're so great. Just a true testament to how hard you can work and make things happen. I was putting in 60, 70, 80-hour weeks when I first started. And at the same time, my wife and I literally had our first baby. And so it was a juggling act, trying to work out of my basement, trying to help raise our newborn daughter, and still trying to make this whole thing work. So,
yeah, that's pretty cool. What are some of the crazy stories you've had? Of things happening to people's homes.
Well, knock on wood, I have not dealt with a fire yet, a total loss house fire. But we have run into some crazy situations where people might, I think you've mentioned before, run their car into their own house. And, then it's a matter of, okay, what policy is covered under what situation? And, in those cases, a lot of insurance companies, if that happens where you have kind of a joint claim where you've got car damage and house damage, they will take just one deductible. They'll choose whatever the highest deductible is between your two policies and use that to file both claims. So you don't have to pay two separate deductibles if a situation like that would happen. But I mean, overall, I think I've been pretty fortunate. I mean, we hit that storm. I think it was last May or last August, I believe, here in Roanoke. My office alone took on over 100 claims just from that one brief, 1 hour hailstorm that we had.
Yeah, that's like a 2-for-1 for you. I mean, because you get the home and the car with the hail, right? Because I know some homes were affected.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, we're still taking on claims from that storm that happened almost a year ago. So
yeah, what's the latest someone can put in a claim? I mean, can I come to you 20 years later and be like, hey, man, remember that hailstorm back in 1993?
I probably shouldn't even put this on air because it's one of my pet peeves, but there's literally no time limit that you have to file a claim. And so, like I said, we took a claim 2 weeks ago from a hailstorm that happened last year.
All right, so a couple questions. Well, that's good to know. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but a couple questions are: you remember that flood in Roanoke where we had the torrential downpours? It's probably been 2 years now, and water hit the city, Salem, Roanoke, Southwestern Virginia. That you'd never seen it before. Now, do you cover water like if it comes into the house?
I am so glad that you brought that up because this is another pain point for not only probably every single insurance agent in town. And we advise all of our clients this from the setup of their new policy. And any sort of rainwater, and I'll repeat that again, any sort of rainwater or flooding that occurs where water gets into your house due to a rainstorm, due to a flood, due to any reason, it's not going to be covered under your basic homeowner's insurance policy. You have to have a separate flood insurance policy for something like that to be covered.
Wow.
So any incoming water that comes into your house, I'll repeat that again, any incoming water that comes into your house, comes into your basement, from a flood, from a rainstorm, anything is not covered under home insurance. And so that's one of the exclusions you have. So you've got flooding is excluded. Earthquake coverage is excluded. Now you can purchase those separately if you want to get that covered. But what I tell people, especially even with houses that aren't in a flood zone and that require flood insurance, depending on the grade of your house, the grade of your land, if you've got, if your property, if it's kind of slanted to where the water runs off and can potentially run into your house, you might want to consider getting a flood insurance policy to cover that. Because, we had dozens of our clients call after that flood happened to try to get coverage. And, we had to break the bad news to them that, hey, this is not covered under your home insurance. You have to have a flood insurance policy. And so the good news is if your house isn't located in a flood zone, that requires flood insurance, you can purchase flood insurance at a significantly discounted price.